Basketball Talk Pro. We have two parts to this video that we're going to show you, but I just want to mention to you the playoffs right now. Last night's game, Game 7, and the will that LeBron James has. It separates everybody. The Michael Jordans, the Larry Birds, they all have it. And as coaches, you can have it too. That kind of will to succeed. I mean, LeBron doesn't even get injured. He wouldn't allow himself to get injured in the playoffs. I think he's had a couple times he's been injured, but didn't miss many games and never missed a playoff game. Such drive. But the games are tightening up now. The defense has gotten better. Both teams, but especially Boston, have resorted to switching, which keeps them from getting scrambled. And so penetration is much harder, even though they can get it occasionally. But the number of times they can get a real good penetration has been diminished. The other thing is, they're playing with real men now when you get down to these last 4 games. All those young guys, you know, college age guys, they're watching the games. These are guys that have been around this for a long time. Many, I don't know how many finals that LeBron has played in. So different from last year. It was so just like a pickup games. Now they're really putting the screws down and getting to work. Well, 2 parts. One part will be a chart of taken from 2 playoff games to show you the various kinds of penetration and their effectiveness. The second part is a drill. That part was actually filmed some time ago, maybe about a year ago. But we kept it because it explains the drill about as well as we can explain it. So first you have the chart, then you have the drill. So I hope you enjoy both of them. Both of them are very good for you. Thank you.
Well, as I told you earlier in a session, that I wanted to do 100 at least times that they penetrated off of the various maneuvers that they used. I ended up with 211. That was 211 possessions that they were in position to do to penetrate off of in actually 6 quarters of NBA games. I only did 2 games, an early playoff game and then the game 6 of Boston and Cleveland, when Cleveland really had to win that game to get into the finals. So now I'm going to go fairly fast on this, but you can stop it and look at it. You need to study this. Random, I'll take one group. Random meant that they ran a random screen and roll or a ball screen. They did that generally just on their own. Sometimes at the play breakdown, but sometimes when they push the ball down fast, sometimes they just did it. Sometimes they called for the screen. Sometimes the guy just went on his own. But these are ball screens that are not part of a play. 55 times they had a possession that they did that. Of those 55 times, 41 times they penetrated. This is what the penetration shows. And on those penetrations, they scored 14 points only. But also on that 41 penetrations, of this 55. They penetrated and passed 9 times, scored 8 points on penetrating and pass. 2 times they took the shot off the screen. What all you guys are so afraid of. It went off the screen, rose up, and took the shot. But they only did it 2 times, and it doesn't surprise me. Most of the time, they don't shoot off of that ball screen. And if they do, they don't make very, very many. So they on this particular maneuver, random screen and roll, they had an OER of 0.40. Not really good. Now I'll go through these. A hand back means usually they dribble out a guy, hand it back. It can be done in different ways, but it's some form of a hand back. They did that 39 times. I would guess that 60 to 70% of those 39 were Boston. The rest of the teams didn't do it quite as much. A set means that it's a set ball screen, like at the top of the key, middle of the floor. That was probably the most prevalent one, but there were some wing ones on the wing. And then this particular possibility of a penetration is an isolation. I'm not talking here definitely about where they set it up to isolate and the players move off the floor, not off the floor, but in position to give them a lot of room. This is more just getting the ball in the play. Just as they're playing, and a guy decides to go one-on-one with his man. That's basically most of the time that's what happened. It wasn't a set isolation play. It was an isolation as a player thought that he had his man beat 74 times. That was the most of any of them. That's what you got to defend. One guy, one defender. And we'll talk about that later. This is the OER for each one. Down here, 211 possibilities. Possessions that it was possible. They did a random, they did a hand back, they did a set, or they went on their own. Now, when they just penetrated, total penetrations, they only scored 80 points off of those, 0.51. Not real good. Penetration and pass, though, was good. 8 points out of every 10 times they did it. That's pretty good. Shooting off of the screen, though, only 12 times out of 156 possibilities. They just didn't take that shot much, and they didn't make it much. Totally, they ended up scoring 111 points for this 211 penetrations, possessions that ended up in penetration. That's a low OER, no doubt about it. But I was surprised with NBA players how much trouble they had scoring at the basket. A lot of these were missed layups. Now, LeBron could score at the basket, but it got very physical like it does in the playoffs. It gets tough to do things. They were not, they were, and a lot of times they were giving up the ball on digs. It wasn't as effective as you would think. The perception that you see on the TV cameras is that they're just doing great, but they really aren't doing that great. Isolation, as I pointed out, was their top one. So this is really the area that you got to practice on, and I'm telling you right now, after seeing how many times they were in a position to penetrate and did penetrate. You got to be able to defend it. So I'm going to go now to a drill that will show you if you practice it diligently. I do not see any reason that you don't practice going one on one, defending the ball for everybody. They can get good at it and help your team a lot. Do it every day. On the film we're going to watch, I talk about what Don Nelson told me about those great teams with the Boston Celtics. You have to be doing the same thing. So I want to go now to an older film that we made sometimes, a video we made time ago, and I just want you to see this drill, because I'll guarantee you it'll help your team if you coach it right. And so listen to what what I have to say about it, and very carefully. We'll go there now. Thank you.
Keep it in your mind. What I am going to get into today is a defensive drill that I think everybody should run almost every practice. I was asked to do something on containing a driver and a drill, and I have a very simple drill. As you know, if you've been watching Basketball Talk Pro very long, I've talked about the three pillars of defense, which is contain the ball, contest shots, and defensive rebounding. Now there's other things, of course, but I think if you can do those three things very well, you're going to be a good defensive team, regardless of what kind of strategy you use or system you use. By the same token, if you can't do those three things well, I don't care what you do defensively, you're not going to be any good. You can talk about rotations and all those things, but if you can't contain the ball, you don't contest shots, and you don't rebound defensively, no matter what you're doing, it goes out the window. So these three things are very important. It starts with your team being able to play a man with the ball effectively. And so this drill is what I've used. You don't need much more. You know, I was with Don Nelson for a couple of years. He told me that those great Celtic teams of Bill Russell and Havlicek and all of those players, Nelly was on those teams, that after practice, when Auerbach quit practice and left, the team stayed on the floor, and what they did every day was play one-on-one. They had some, kind of little games, but mainly they played each other. They tried to play everybody on the team. They mixed it up, and they did that after every practice. Of course, they were a fantastic team, and they were a great defensive team. Learning to play one-on-one is, just like playground or pickup basketball, but it's very important. We have a drill that I think gets the point across to the players very, very well. First of all, I have them drawn up on both sides. We don't use both sides at the same time. One side goes, then the other side goes, and it comes back here. It starts right here. This man, we start him low. We want this man, the defensive man, to get in a high position. Do not stay even with him. I repeat that and repeat it. But everybody, you go away from the drill and they're playing right here on the guy. Now that gives the offensive player the advantage. He knows when he's going. You have to react to it. This gives you a step or two. You have to be very careful. You don't want to go so far up that the back door is wide open, but far enough so that when he comes, you're still ahead of him, and you stay ahead of him all the way to here and out to there. And this going from here to here is the most important. This has got to be very quick. That's why we use that defensive drill that I showed you. This should be a coach. The coach passes to him. The coach can get pretty good at passing to the outside of that man rather than right at him. Now the rule though is we tell this guy to overplay like he can't get the ball, but let him have the ball. It's a little clumsy sometimes and they forget. It's okay. Nothing works perfectly. Once he gets the ball, this is critical. This man can't stay here once he gets the ball. He's got to get over here. So he can't do this reaching out. It's helpless, doesn't do anything. When that ball's in the air, unless he can intercept it, now he can do that, but he better make it work. Otherwise, it's going to be a calamity for the rest of the team. But as the ball's in the air, he should be getting a new position so that when he catches the ball, he's in the position. Now, we force middle. I know a lot of teams force baseline, but I'm going to tell you something. If this guy gets beat and turns that corner, you can't stop him from getting a layup without fouling him badly. I don't care what you say. You can come from the weak side. You come from the weak side and try to stop that guy, you're going to get a foul or get smashed, either one. So force him into the middle because you got all kinds of help in here. That's why we do it. But now, once he gets the ball, here's the rules. The rules make this effective. They have 8 seconds, this guy, with the ball, to get a shot. I don't want all of this backing in and all that stuff you can't do in a game. In a game, you better be able to get by that guy and get a shot in 8 seconds, or you should be passing the ball to somebody. Or staying in the offense. But here's the other part. The shot must be in the paint. In other words, you got 8 seconds to get in here. Now that means this guy's got to drive. Otherwise, what you'll find is this guy will take a step and shoot a jump shot. So, big deal. But that doesn't help us learn how to play defense. This is pretty like a game. 8 seconds, you gotta move, drive in here to get a shot. You can't shoot it out here, pull up and shoot a jump shot. It's gotta be in here. And now the defense, but the other rule we have is the offense is always in bonus. You can't be a good defender fouling people. Tough stuff you guys like to talk about. You're not tough anyway, but it doesn't work. Anybody fouled in bonus can walk up to that line and score a point. It's darn hard to score a point per possession any other way. The easiest way is to get fouled. So you've got to learn to play without fouling. That doesn't mean to be meek. It just means be smart. Because if here you are, 8 seconds left on the clock, you're up by 1 point, this guy gets the ball, he goes in, you foul him, he's got 2 shots, chances are it's a tie game or a loss. If he's a good shooter, and I would imagine they're going to throw the ball to somebody who is not a bad shooter. Those are the rules. Both players rebound. the shot ends the drill for these guys, but we want them to rebound. I want that defensive man, when that shot goes up and he contests it, to really be pursuing the ball, and the offensive player as well. He might get a second shot. So it turns out to be a very good drill. Now, in organizing it, this is a pair. They stay on that side. We do this side. Same thing, same rules. Okay, now when they're done, we come back to these same two guys, only they change offense to defense and defense to offense. And then they run a time here. When they're done, both players have been on offense and defense, then they go to the other side of the court. And these guys do the same, so that they're learning how to play defensively and offensively on both sides of the court. We only use one side only. Now, there's some things I'm not going to get into today on technique, or not technique so much as what you're trying to do. We have done that. We've talked about that. We will talk about it again. Today, I'm showing you a drill because that's what they wanted, that you can work on just that specific skill. And like that book says, it can become automated and effortless if you have enough repetition. I don't see any excuse, any at all, for not doing this drill many times a week, all season long. You only get good at something you practice. You only get bad at something you don't practice. So, go to work on this drill. Thank you for watching. Don't forget what I said from that book. We have to be coaches that know the mind. We have to understand the players' minds. Have to understand our own mind. So we take care of ourselves and raise ourselves up. But the mind is the area that we want to learn how to work on and run this drill. We'll see you next time. Thank you.